All right, so I made a video, the strange death of Alberta, and today I kind of wanted to talk about the solutions, right? I wanted to talk about the solutions because, I kind of brought up most of the problems, so I wanted to bring up a video to where again, I brought up some of the solutions at the end of that video, but I kind of wanted to build upon it. Um, so this is from Jason Kenney saying Premier Jason Kenney has promised to hold a equalization referendum to give Albertans the opportunity to send a message to Ottawa. This referendum will be held this coming October in conjunction with municipal elections. So, um, finally, some good news, to be quite honest. But this is kind of it feels like too little, too late. Um, I wish they would include a separation question, even if it's just a hypothetical, like would you be open to the concept of separation or something along those lines? Like I said, I really wish they would do that. And to be quite honest, I could literally say how to fix Alberta is to separate and to cut off the video. Like I could basically say we just need to separate. That's what we need to do. Um, but that's too simple. That's too simple. So this is good news, but again, the problem with equalization is that now that the oil and gas industry has been decimated, we're not getting screwed as much over equalization. Now, I guess we're kind of getting screwed in the reverse in that we should be getting money back. I guess that's a better way of putting it, but we're not getting as screwed as we once were, but at the end of the day, we should be getting something. And here's the thing, like I'm not big on government programs. In fact, I don't think the vast majority of government should exist in the first place, if at all. But if we're going to have these government programs, we at least need to apply them in a universal fashion, right? Because the the and there is a handful of arguments that the people that disagree with this stuff say, and I think they're all complete bunk. Um, the first one that they say that I want to clear up is, oh, people who support separation are this fringe minority, which I don't think is the case. But even if it is, then why are they so afraid of a referendum on separation? Like, I don't understand. Like, what are they so afraid of? Like, it's like the Democrats in the states. Again, like again, I'm not going to get into it because I know YouTube doesn't like talking about it. But again, like, if they were so confident in their position, well, what are they afraid of? It's the same thing with, um, it's the same thing in Alberta. Like, if these people genuinely believe that the Wexit crowd are a fringe minority, then why not just hold a vote and settle it then and there? And the fact that that's never their argument, I think, goes to show that if the majority of people don't support separation, it's definitely close to it. Now, personally, if I had to guess, I do think it's a minority, but I don't think it's by that much. And the other thing, too, is that if the media was actually honest and if people were actually not misled to the degree that we're misled about this stuff, I do think it would be a majority. The problem, like I said, is that we're so misled about this stuff that, again, they'd come up with a million what if horror stories, none of them making any sense as their excuse, right? So, like I said, the simple solution would be to separate. I think if we separated, we could become massively wealthy. Again, like assuming things go correct. Um, but again, that's a hypothetical. Another thing that I'm surprised, I'm not surprised, but I think should be something that we should be considering as a province. Again, something that's I highly doubt's ever going to happen is that we should be putting some money into Bitcoin. Again, this is something that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but why not take a chance? If Bitcoin gets to where most of the experts that have been right about it up until this point gets, Bitcoin is going to 10, 20x over the next 5 to 10 years. If Alberta simply said, okay, we're going to allow people to pay provincial taxes in Bitcoin, and the government said, okay, we're going to keep 1 or 2% of that in reserves, I think that we would have a very good chance of becoming fabulously wealthy. Now, the problem with that is that number one, like I said, it's very unlikely, and number two, even if we did go through with it, chances are the government would find some way to blow that money. So that is the problem. But I think that's something that we should be doing, right? I don't see like again like as far as the UCP and these people are doing, like what do you have to lose? Like this is the thing that boggles my mind most about the conservatives. That the conservatives should be the ones proposing this kind of stuff because again, what do you have to lose? Like I say, you don't have anything to lose. I don't understand. If things keep going the way that they're going, conservative governments are going to be things of the past. Now, a government that calls themselves conservative may get elected, but actually conservative, fiscally conservative governments are going. I mean, they already are a thing of the past, to be quite honest. There's some that still have some remnants of that, but fiscally conservative governments no longer exist. But governments that are the least bit fiscally conservative um, will be a thing of the past too if we keep going. So that's something I would bring up. But other things we need to be doing is keep fighting tooth and nail to help out the oil and gas industry. I know it's kind of a losing battle, but it's something we should be doing nonetheless. But the other things we should be doing too is trying to innovate in the most ways possible. Now, how do we do that? We make Alberta the province that people that are starting businesses most want to come to. How do you do that? Well, you have the least regulations and the least taxes. Now, because Alberta has worse weather than, Vancouver area, even like Kelowna and stuff, and even the GTA, you're always going to have that aspect that people are going to want to go to other areas because of the weather. But I mean, you look at the amount of people that are leaving California for other states. Why are they leaving California? I mean, the weather's awesome, but the taxes and the regulations are out of control. So we should be the province that's trying to attract those businesses that no longer want to do business in these other provinces because the regulations and the taxes are out of control. And that would be a very easy thing to do. The problem is that the left will never go for that, and the right won't either, because, like I say, actually conservative governments are a thing of the past. And that's the big problem. So the thing I would point out as well is that again, nobody has all the solutions. I don't have all the solutions, but I'm very confident in saying, and again, I would bet money on it that I have steps in the right direction. A lot of this stuff would be very easy to do. Like it wouldn't be hard to do any of the things. I mean, separation, yeah, that would be hard to do, but all these other things wouldn't be hard to do, right? The way to get ahead these days is to get ahead of the times. If you can get ahead of the times, that gives you a massive advantage compared to these other areas. So that's what we should be trying to do. Other things we should be trying to do is cutting immigration. Again, mass immigration is one of the biggest reasons why life is so unaffordable these days, why getting a good job is so hard these days, why the cost of living is through the roof these days. Because again, all this stuff is based upon supply and demand, right? The problem we face in Canada is that if the amount of jobs were actually coming up at a high rate, okay, maybe we could have some mass immigration or immigration. I would never support mass immigration. Um, the problem is that the amount of good new jobs that are being created are few and far between. But the amount of people that want those jobs is a ever growing number, which is why wages haven't gone up in 20 years. I don't think that the median wages in Canada have gone up since like the late 90s. But the cost of housing has gone up, what, double, triple since then, especially in the big cities. Cost of living has gone up significantly. Again, this is something people bring up nowadays. Oh, we have it better than ever, which we really don't. We have it very good in some ways, but as far as cost of living goes, we don't have it good at all. Now again, people will say, well, oh well, if you go back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, people were living on, less money adjusted for inflation. But that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything because um, the cost of living was way lower back then, right? Not to mention too, you could get the equivalent to what is today like a 60, 70, $80,000 a year job with a high school diploma like 90, 95% of the time. Even if you're a high school dropout, you had a decent chance of getting it. Now, even if you have a college degree, there's no guarantee you're going to have an above average or even an average paying job, right? So this is the problem nowadays. Is as good as basically the things we have that are good nowadays is technology, right? That's what we have that's good today. As far as cost of living goes, we have it horrible, right? If you look back in like the 40s, 50s, 60s, you could buy a middle class house on like 2 years' salary, right? Like just imagine, like if you look at the GT, like if wages had kept up with inflation, the median wage in the GTA should be like a $500,000. Median wages in Edmonton should be like $200,000, 250, maybe 150 to 250 depending on where you're at, right? But are they? No, they're still at like 50, 60,000, right? So life is way more affordable or unaffordable than it has been. Right? I just talked about the video this morning that the average person in Ontario is losing $1,400 per year just in money the government's taking from them to pay off deficits. Was government deficits as crazy as they are now as they were a couple of generations ago? Well, no. So we need to find ways to make life more affordable. And having mass immigration is the exact opposite of doing that. Basically, forcing people to get college degrees just to get a half decent job is not a way of doing that, right? You're 25 years old and you have $100,000 in debt, and the best you can get is a $20 an hour job. That's a pretty bleak looking future, right? So something we should be doing is stop basically forcing people to get college degrees to get a decent paying job. Most of these jobs that require college degrees, you don't need a degree to do it. You just need a degree because the business or the industry as a whole needs a way to weed people out, because if they didn't have a way of weeding people out, they would be flooded with applications and they wouldn't know where to start, right? So basically what they're saying is that, oh, you shouldn't be able to just walk in off the street and do this. So the best solution we can come up with is we're going to make people waste 4 or 5 years of their life and $100,000, even more than that when you include the amount of lost potential wages, to get the job, which again makes no sense. I'm not saying people should be able to just walk in off the streets and do a lot of these things. I'm simply saying there's no way you can argue with a straight face that the most timely and costly efficient way to become an accountant or to become a coder, to become a computer programmer, to become, um, again, those are things off the top of my head. There's no way you can argue that you should have to spend 4 or 5 years of your life and $100,000 to do that, right? Again, I'm no expert on any of these things, but if you went to the average professional accountant and said, "Can you train me to become an accountant in less than 4 years and or for less than $100,000?" I guarantee you that every one of them could do it. And if they say they can't, they're probably pretty bad at their job. Same thing goes for, again, like you look at some of these people. I see people on the internet like quite a bit. They're like 12, 13, 14-year-old kids that can program computers, that can run code. Did they go to college? No, they figured it out themselves. Now again, they're probably very intelligent to begin with, which helps them out a lot, but they're probably a lot of these people are probably just as good at it as people with college degrees. Again, you look at a lot of these people running these big tech startups and these big tech companies. Do they have college degrees? No, right? So again, like, and again, a lot of people scoff at this, but again, like, people don't seem to realize just how much time and money you're wasting by basically forcing people to go to college, right? Like, if you took if you took $10,000 when you're 20 years old and invested that money, by the time you're 60, that money is going to be well into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like again, like people don't seem to realize just how um, how different things could be just by making small changes, just by making life a little bit more affordable for people, just how big the changes could be, right? So yeah, that's basically how I would change things, and that separation would be the best thing. Like I think that would solve a lot of the most problems, but that's the least likely one to happen because again, um, even if it does become popular, which I think it is, the problem is that the mainstream media and all the leftists are gonna do whatever they can to sabotage it, right? So that is kind of the problem with that. So anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you check out those links below. Make sure you follow me on those other platforms if you haven't already. If you want to donate, you could do that as well. Again, I would very much appreciate whatever support I can get, but at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more.